Good morning and welcome to Wednesday's devotions. Today I want to go back a little bit, historically speaking, from Monday's devotions. But I want to look at the whole incident of Rahab and the spies. There are so many fascinating things to learn from this incident. One we know well from Sunday school, although I very much doubt whether our Sunday school teachers told us what Rahab really did. But anyway, Joshua 2 tells us this. Then Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim. Go and look over the land, he said, especially Jericho. So they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. So much is said, and so much not said in this verse, that it would really make a stunning movie, although perhaps age-restricted. The word secretly is a word that in the Hebrew is connected to both Joshua and to the mission of what they need to do. So it says that Joshua himself secretly sent the spies. They were to secretly go and investigate. So I believe it firstly shows how much Joshua has learned in terms of leadership. He didn't want to make the same mistake that Moses did in sending the spies. And so first of all, he only sent 2. And secondly, he sent them in secret, telling them to report back directly to him. So he was able to manage the information that came back. There are definitely some things that leaders can handle and others not. And discouragement is one of those things. The other thing I find absolutely fascinating is that these spies go to a brothel in the city. Yes, I know it was probably the one place one could go without anyone asking any questions. But I want to know who told them to go there, or how did they know to go there? Because one cannot imagine that there were brothels in Israel where they were camped. And if you want to think of her as an innkeeper, let me assure you that both the Hebrew and the New Testament Greek word can only mean sex worker, nothing else. It cannot mean anything else. Even her very name, Rahab, which basically means wide or spacious, has a connection to what she did. Personally, I think they went there for the very reason that brothels exist. And especially as we learn later in chapter 6 that they were young men. And like God often does in our lives, he turned their sin and failure into an incredible demonstration of grace. But I get ahead of myself. The Bible goes on to say that the king of Jericho was told, look, some Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land. So the king of Jericho sent this message to Rahab, bring out the men who came to you and entered your house, because they've come to spy out the whole land. But the woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. She said, yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they had come from. At dusk, when it was time to close the city gate, they left. I don't know which way they went. Go after them quickly, you may catch them. But she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them under stalks of flax that she had laid out on the roof. So the men set out in pursuit of the spies on the road that leads to the fords of Jordan. As soon as the pursuers had gone out, the gate was shut. Once again, many questions. I want to know who told the king that there were spies in the city? And then, who told them that they were in a brothel? I mean, seriously, there could hardly have been more than a few hours that they have been there, and yet a message comes from some insignificant brothel in the middle of the city, or rather the edge of the city, to the ear of the king in his palace. That really isn't normal, is it? Not only does he get told they're there, but he gets told where they are. And Rahab, obviously, when the police arrive, have to think quickly on her feet. And so, firstly, she admits that they were there. And let me say, this was a really smart thing to do, because if she had have denied it, they knew they were there, they would have torn that place apart. But instead, she admits it. But she says she doesn't know where they came from, or where they're going, and which way they went. So she urges them, she said they left just as before the city gate was closed. If you go quickly now, you'll get through the gate and you'll be able to catch them. That was a really smart thing to do, because the incredible thing is that's exactly what spies who are running away would do. That's what they would do. They'd race out and try and get away. Rahab, meanwhile, had hidden these men under some stalks of flax rather, that were drying on the roof. Now let me ask you the question. Is there ever a justification for lying? So often when we have an inflexible worldview, we would respond, no. There's never a justification for lying. However, we need to recognize that we live in a flawed world, full of nuances. And in this instance, Rahab was choosing the lesser of two evils. It was evil to lie, but it was a greater evil to deliver God's men to be slaughtered. She chose the lesser evil, and that was to lie. And here for me is where the incredible grace of God comes flooding in. Rahab, the sex worker, owner and practitioner of a home where she and other women were paid to service men sexually, a woman who was willing to lie, and yet somehow, through the incredible grace of God, becomes the great-grandmother of David, the best king of Israel, and ultimately only one of three women mentioned in the genealogy of our Lord Jesus Christ himself, and mentioned in Hebrews as a woman of faith. It's thought that Solomon, who she eventually marries, was one of the young men she protected. And again, this would make an incredible chick flick about a woman who risked her life to save the man she ultimately married, and unbeknown to her, he was an Israelite prince. What a great movie that would make. But the incredible thing is, Rahab's story is true. And it's also true that the incredible God we serve can take the most unbelievable messes that we make of our lives and turn them into a trophy of glory, turn them into something that exalts his name. So I want to say to you this morning that no matter what you've done, no matter how you feel about what you've done, Jesus is able to forgive you and restore you completely. The Bible tells us, goes on to tell us, that now the men said to her, this is now the young men, the spies, "This oath you made us swear will not be binding on us unless, when we enter the land, you have tied the scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down, and unless you have brought your father and mother, your brothers, and all your family into your house. If any of them go outside the house into the street, their blood will be on their own heads. We will not be responsible. As for those who are in the house with you, their blood will be on our head if a hand is laid on them. But if you tell what we are doing, we will be released from the oath you made us swear." Fascinating. She could lie for both places if he needed to. "Agreed," she replied. "Let it be as you say." So she sent them away, and they departed, and she tied the scarlet cord in the window. That's Joshua chapter 2 and verses 17 to 21. And the reason I read it to you is because we all kind of know what happened. We know she let down the spies, etc., etc. But I want you to hear the immediacy of her obedience. The moment those men touched the floor at the bottom of the wall, the moment she had let them down there, she ties the scarlet cord in a window. She does it straight away. Immediately she obeys what she needs to do. And I want to encourage you, don't put off this seeking for forgiveness. Don't put off coming near to Jesus. Don't put off reaching out to him and asking him to sort out your life. Do it right now. Do it straight away. Because the more you put it off, the easier it'll be to put it off. Easier it is to forget, the easier it is to lose this moment. The fact that God can take the mess of our lives and turn it right around and create a wonderful, wonderful trophy of grace out of who we are. He's done it for me. He can do it for you. God bless you, and have a weirdly wonderful Wednesday.